To begin today's program, I'd like to introduce a very dear friend of Bob's, Buzz Stussy.
Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome. Again, my name is Buzz Stussy, and I was a longtime personal friend of both Bob Seeley's and of Robert Espindola's. I'd like to welcome all of you to this very special celebration of life for Bob. Today we have a number of Bob's family visiting. Members present today are first Bob's beloved sister Carol Seeley Franick, and his brother David Seeley, and his wife Jean, niece Rachel Hammock, and his great nephew Dash. Additionally, I'd like to welcome Bob's nephew Matt Franick and his wife Carla, and great nephew Elliot and Bob's cousin Gail Edison. Bob was preceded in death by his parents, Richard and Betty Seeley, brother-in-law Roy Franick, and his partner, Robert Espindola. I would like to especially welcome today with gratitude all of the men of Modern Men. Modern Men is the Coachella Valley's men's chorus. They're here, there are nearly 80 voices here today to pay tribute to Bob. Bob, by the way, was the co-founder of Modern Men, along with Dr. Stan Hill, the group's artistic director and conductor. So to open today's celebration of life, it's my honor to introduce you to artistic director of Modern Men, Dr. Stan Hill.
Unforgotten is from Bob's last major work. Anyway, 2020 is when it was supposed to be done. So 2018 was when we commissioned it. But COVID canceled the International Festival of GLBT Choruses. But we revived it and we performed it in 2024 in Minneapolis. This movement, with texts by Robert Espindola, is from Momentum. It's called Unforgotten.
I brought my book to read, so if you were, I'm going to try to talk loud. I'm not a loud talker, nor am I a public speaker, so bear with me. So anyway, first of all, good afternoon. My brother David and I and the rest of the family thank you all for coming to celebrate the life of our brother Bobby. I'm sure most of you have never called him Bobby, but he grew up as Bobby. And those who knew him in grade school and high school still refer to him as Bobby. I believe when he went to college, his name morphed to Bob, then it went to Robert, and then it went back to Bob. So, but he's still Bobby to me. Before I start, here's a quote he had in his office. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, this is to the chorus and all who sing. To sing is God's greatest gift. It gives the heart wings and the soul lips. I want to thank the chorus for being here and singing the incredible songs Bob composed. I was able to attend a rehearsal of the chorus a month or so ago, and as I started singing the Irish Blessing, I immediately burst into tears. It was just beautiful and brought back so many memories. Bob dedicated this arrangement to the adult choir at Grace Lutheran Church in May of 1986. This is the church we grew up in, and Bob and Robert also sang in that chorus, or that choir on occasion. So Bob was born January 18th, 1956 in Crescent City, California, and lived almost his first full year of life in Brookings, Oregon. He was the very spoiled baby of the family. He celebrated his first birthday in the car on our way to Naval Ordnance Test Station, China Lake, California, in the middle of the Mojave Desert. Our dad was a physicist and worked for the Navy, is why we moved to the desert. Go figure, Navy base in the middle of the desert. That's where it was. So there was this very small community called Ridgecrest outside the gates of the Navy base. As you can imagine, there wasn't much to do. So we had to find and create our own fun. We spent hours swimming, roller skating, playing outside, as there were no video games back then, and of course, lizard hunting. We come from a very musical family. Our grandfather was a music teacher in a small town in Washington. My dad played the trumpet and trombone, while my mom played the clarinet. We were very encouraged to start playing instruments at a very early age. Actually, we had no choice not to play. In addition to playing the trombone, Bob and I started piano lessons. I practiced really hard, but Bob would sight read a song and play like he practiced really hard. Or he would hear a song on the radio and sit down and play it. Our mom also sang beautifully. She started the children's choir at church, and of course we were in the choir, and Bob always outsang us. Besides lizard hunting and our music, sports were always something we did. We lived a block from the golf course, and again, we were very encouraged to play. Bob played some, but he didn't find much pleasure chasing that little white ball around the course. But he did have summer jobs at the golf course picking up the balls on the driving range, and he had much more fun doing that. Bob excelled at everything he wanted to do. What he really didn't want to do was play baseball. But with limited activities for us during our childhood, he did play 1 year as our dad was involved with youth baseball. He played right field. One time a ball was hit to him and he didn't catch it or even try, but he did block the ball from hitting the bug he was playing with in the grass. Needless to say, that ended his baseball career. When we were about 8 or 9, Bob and I tried out for When we were about 8 or 9, Bob and I tried out for a local swim team, something we both wanted to do. We both made the team, and of course Bob excelled. During his high school days, he set a pool record in backstroke, and it was not broken for several years after he graduated. He was also awarded the Coaches Award for his leadership in inspiring his teammates. Bobby was fun and he was funny. His third grade teacher told my parents he was the class clown. There are some of his friends here today Tricia, that could tell you lots of stories from his early years and his high school antics. He also wanted to make everyone laugh and have a smile on their faces, as he always did. He would sit at the piano and he'd play and sing, but there were many a times he would intentionally sing off-key just to crack me up. Bob was smart and involved in many things in high school. Besides band, he was involved in drama, swimming, American Field Service. He actually spent the summer before his senior year as a foreign exchange student in Germany. He told me that's where he acquired his taste for beer at 17. Bob was kind. He was encouraging to others. He was modest and so very humble. He was well-liked and loved by all who knew him. This is where I'm going to break down. Sorry. I've read so many comments from his friends from high school and friends he's made in his adult years that have been so very heartwarming. I don't think Bob really understood the role he played in the many lives he touched and impacted. Bobby and I had some wonderful conversations in the last couple of years. I tell him how much he was loved and how talented he was and how I was in such awe of his talent. I'd ask him how he did what he did. He'd only smile and point to the heavens. He knew it was a God-given gift. I have a couple of fun facts about Bob. He attended Chico State for college. A very good friend of his from high school went with him. She recently told me his first semester of college, he took Swahili. Why would anybody need to learn Swahili as a freshman in college who was going to major in music? I guess he thought he did, or it would be just fun to learn. I never did hear him speak it. After he graduated in college, he lived in Hawaii for a year or so. I'm not sure if he even had a job when he went there, but ended up working for Don Ho, arranging music. Wow. After Hawaii, he returned to Ridgecrest and worked as the music teacher in a local town, Trona, which is a god-awful place. But he did. He worked there. Anyway, Bob was very generous and caring. In the mid-'80s, he was living in the Bay Area and dropped everything to move to Washington to be the caretaker for our elderly grandparents until my dad retired and our parents were able to take over the duties to care for them. Okay. In the late 90s, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. He was so caring and calming and compassionate, calling me all the time to see how I was doing. Unbeknownst to me, he had written an essay to the Susan G. Komen Foundation to be one of the handful of composers to be a part of the Sing for the Cure fundraiser. He was selected, and my mom and I flew to Dallas, Texas in June of 2000 to be part of the wonderful event. He did this in my honor. That's the kind of brother he was. Bob loved his dogs. They weren't just dogs to him, but his fur babies. He grew up with a dog. We grew up with a dog since Bob was about 4 and was with him until he went off to college. One time last year when I was here in Palm Springs, I noticed a poem on the piano, on his piano, and some handwritten notes on it. He told me he saw the poem at the vet's office and he was going to put it to music. He had the melody in his head, but was unable to get it out of his head onto paper. But here's the first verse, and it was really long. The poem was entitled A Dog's Plea. Treat me kindly, my beloved friend, for no heart in the world is more grateful for kindness than the loving heart of me. All of Bob and Robert's fur babies had the loving care each deserved. I am so proud of my little brother for all his talents, his accomplishments, his contributions, and especially his kind and loving heart. I am so blessed to have been his sister. I'm so grateful his music will continue to be sung and shared with the world. I end with a quote from Helen Keller, another quote I found in Bob's office. What we have once enjoyed, we can never lose. All that we love becomes a part of us. Godspeed, little brother.
The chorus is from Naked Man, which I will talk about later. It came about because Philip Littell, who was at that time the librettist for Bob, came to one of my focuses at Herbst Theater before we went on. And we had lost a lot of guys that month. And so my focus was about living in the moment, that we're here together and we're never going to have this opportunity again. Just like today, we're never going to have this group of people and that group chorus, and it's never going to happen again. This moment is given to each of us to be here in this moment. And that's what Never Ever is about. There's just itching to say something about Bob. This is your chance. If you have an anecdote, a favorite memory, a brief thought that you'd like to share with us, we'd love for you to share that with us. Who's going first?
Rick LeBlanc, former member of SFGMC from '83 to 2001. Bob was an incredible talent that I was honored to be actually on 6 or 5 recordings of his music. And I was able to speak with his family earlier to tell him how I was really honored to be able to be a chorus member and a friend of his. And also mentioned that one of his first pieces was "You Are My Star." Not a lot of people know that that was actually written for Terry Peterson, his first love, or one of his first loves. We lost Terry, unfortunately, but he's here, I'm sure, with Bob. And Bobby. I can go on, of course, he knows that. Thank you all very much. Thank you all very much for being here. And thank you to the family. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rick.
You're welcome.
You went to elementary school with Bob in what city?
Ridgecrest, China Lake, actually.
China Lake, Ridgecrest.
Bob and I were in elementary school together. We lived around the corner from each other, and we went to church together. And I just love Bob. I looked through my scrapbooks and seen like every other picture. And we used to sit in church, and Bob could sing, and I could not. And every time, I think it was Hark the Herald Angels Sing came out, we would belt it out, and then Bob would start laughing at how badly I was singing. And then eventually the pastor would get up at the podium and say, Bob Seeley and Tricia Dye, separate. The whole church would tell us to separate. But I did swim team with Bob and all the way through high school, and I loved him. And I think if my mom could have adopted another son, she would have adopted Bobby. She loved him very, very much. And I'm so grateful he was in my life, and that we get to be here and remember him today.
Wonderful memory. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Anybody else?
My name is Mark Dupner. You might be surprised to not see me there singing, but I have a big boot on my foot from surgery. I moved here with my husband Keith from Chicago in 2013. We immediately joined the Palm Springs Campus Chorus that Bob was currently directing. They were somewhat of a smaller group involved, but I went up to Bob and said, I have a lot of experience doing a small group and wanted to know if I could maybe assist with that, be the person to do that. And I gave him a bunch of DVDs of my previous work, and he gave me the opportunity, and he had confidence in me. So I was able to do that the next year. We won't get into the summer of issues, but the next year in Palm Springs Campus Chorus, I did run a small ensemble called In Season, and I owe that to Bob's confidence in me, and it was an honor to work with him, and then also have him come back to this organization and sing with him. So he did touch a lot of people, as Carol said, so it was an honor.
Yes.
So my name is Dave Jansen. I'm a member of Modern Men, proud member of Modern Men. I didn't know Bob as well as a lot of other people in this church. However, when I started with Modern Men, I got to sit next to him in rehearsal. He was a bass, just like I'm a bass. And he would lean over to me and he would say, "You're singing that wrong." Okay, and so he would teach me through that. And after he would get it correct, he'd help me get it correct. He told me, "You have a lovely voice." And then he would call me sweetheart. And every time I saw him, he called me sweetheart. Stan gave me the opportunity to help him put together Bob's libretto for Gala. And I got to see the depth of the talent that Bob had. It was incredible. It's something to sit and look through someone's computer and see the talent without any kind of voiceover. I had questions. Why did you put this here? Why did you do this? And I could only assume from that, from his talent and his experience, that there was a God-given gift there. It was an incredible honor to be able to do that, and I'm so pleased that Bob's memory will live not only with us, but with all of the Gala movement.
Thank you, David. Yes.
My name is Curtis Anderson. I'm a proud member of Modern Men, not singing this quarter, but I'm one of the founding members of Modern Men, and there's a few of us here. Kind of want to just give that brief little story how we kind of broke away from the Palm Springs Gay Men's Chorus, and we were kind of like the Robin Hood, we were the little merry music makers that were the renegades and broke away, and it was exciting. There was about 45 of us, and we would practice at somebody's house and play on Modern Men, and it all came together like that. It ended up kind of like being like 25, and to see where it is now with over 100 members, it's quite an accomplishment. And when we sing Bob's music, it's just anybody in the audience and friends and family when they come to concerts, they just say it's just beautiful. His music's just so beautiful and it's so touching. So I'm proud to be a part of all of that.
Thank you very much. Great LaFleur. I also wrote a club, grade school.
I have one question Bob never answered, so I'll have to ask him again. Why the trombone?
Because it's loud. would pick the trombone because I don't know of a person who was more quiet than Bob.
Very quiet.
He would be talking to you and you knew he was saying something because his lips were moving. But as often as not, in 1986, Bob began singing with the San Francisco Gay Men's Chorus and inspired him to begin singing for TTBB work. That's tenor, tenor, bass, bass, men's choruses. Some of his earliest compositions are some of his most beloved. You Are My Star, and you'll hear later, The Irish Blessing. I wasn't hired to San Francisco until 1989. And Bob was one of the first people that I got to meet. And we formed an immediate bond. In '96, he composed the highly acclaimed Naked Man with lyricist Philip Littell. And it became his signature work. In '97, Robert Espindola joined San Francisco Gay Men's Chorus, and the two became life partners and collaborated with Bob as his lyricist. To avoid confusion, I will refer to Robert Seeley as Bob and Robert Espindola as Robert. I hope. Anecdotally, Bob's even timbre shone through even when, while he was composing, I would go over to the house every Friday and see what he had. What do you have for me today? Two major blocks were, Philip Littell wrote a piece called Dance on Your Grave, one of the greatest moments in the whole thing. But it's angry. We were angry. We had lost 125 guys in the 11 years that I was in San Francisco. And they kept after. And so suddenly we were not the nice little boys who went to 3 or 4 memorials a month. And finally, there was this moment we got angry. And Philip wrote this wonderful poem called Dance on Your Grave. Well, he insisted on including 2 expletives, which I will not repeat. And I said, no, not going to happen. You'll offend the audience and you'll offend every single person in the chorus. I'm not going to do it. Philip Littell came unglued. And I said, Philip, you need to go back to LA and cool your heels. It's not going to happen, so accept that. It's not going to happen. Bob is sitting there going, he has a song going on in his head. About 2 weeks later, I get a phone call from Bob. Stan, have you got a minute? Can you come over? I went over and he was sobbing. Stan, look at this. Philip has given me 40 poems. I have no idea what to do. I said, give me a moment. This is before cell phones. It's before anything. You have to make a long distance phone call. I got Philip Littell on the phone and I said, get on a plane and get up here now, tonight. He goes, okay. That was like 2 in the afternoon. By 9 o'clock at night, Philip had arrived. I went to pick him up at the airport. I told him the story. The 2 of them were there, and I said, Philip, we booked you in a room, and Bob says, no, I have an extra bedroom, you can stay here. I said, okay, at 9 o'clock, I'm bringing donuts and coffee, and I'm locking you 2 in a closet. And you're not coming out of that closet until you have come up with what the piece looks like, all the movements. And they said, okay, that's how we'll do it. So it went from 40 movements to the 16 that it is now. One of his most beloved pieces, and one of the first collaborations between Seeley and Espindola, was an absolutely magnificent piece with the world premiere at Carnegie Hall called In This Heart of Mine. Gorgeous piece. They were affectionately called the Roberts by several choruses that hired them. Turtle Creek Chorale, Washington, D.C., New York, and Portland. The Roberts provided an extensive body of gala-commissioned works that have been heard in major concert halls throughout the United States, Canada, Australia, China, and Europe. Tell me the year we went to Australia.
98.
98? We went to Australia, and Australians are wacko for ABBA. They think ABBA is from the planet whatever. So we did Naked Man, followed by Extravaganza, with an ABBA in the middle of it, and brought the house down. It was a wonderful experience. In 2000, I commissioned them to write Exile, which was premiered at Gala Festival 2000 in San Jose. And during Bob's tenure with San Francisco Gay Men's Chorus, he composed scores of pieces for a wide variety of forces. The beautiful thing about Bob is his different major works use different forces. For instance, Exile is all brass and woodwinds. Naked Man was full orchestra with strings, brass, and woodwinds. Metamorphosis was for strings. So each one had a different sound, a different texture, a different component. In 2000, I was hired as the artistic director of the Twin Cities Gay Men's Chorus in Minneapolis, and immediately started working on a long-distance Seeley-Espindola collaboration, which resulted in Metamorphosis. It was premiered at Gala Festival 2014 in Montreal, and we used dancers from the James Sewell Ballet. And it was the most amazing thing you've ever seen. Fortunately, no lives were lost in the Minneapolis production, because I had 3 stories of scaffolding, because I wanted the entire chorus on one plane, rather than choruses that are stacked back to back. And I was worried about these guys that are 3 stories high. And I thought, oh, you know, none of them are going to want to get up there. I said, okay, get on the scaffolding. They all wanted to get on the top. And it was absolutely amazing. The James Sewell Ballet to this day is remembered for that performance. It's absolutely wonderful. The Roberts moved to the Northwest in the summer of 2007. Bob Seeley joined Portland Gay Men's Chorus as a baritone, in addition to being their composer-in-residence. Espindola took a public teaching job, and Metamorphosis was performed by Portland. Their artistic director, who is a member of our chorus, on leave right now, Bob Denzel, had commissioned for Portland 2007 Pride. It was called a Peacemakers Concert. It was an anti-war cantata called Brave Souls and Dreamers, from a mother's viewpoint. It was inspired by the words of Buddha, Jesus, Confucius, Isaiah, Gandhi, the Dalai Lama, Mother Teresa, Jimmy Carter, and the Quran. It was performed in 2008 at the festival, Gala Festival in Miami. And again, I was privileged enough to go to New York at the Cathedral of St. John the Divine with full orchestra and heard Brave Souls and Dreamers. And I'll tell you, it was one of those moments you will never, ever forget. If you don't have that CD, oh, by the way, go to YouTube and put in SFGMC, Seeley, or TCGMC, Twin Cities. You will be stunned at the amount of Bob's music on YouTube. There are literally hundreds of pieces there. Their time in Oregon was one of the most musically productive periods in their careers. Both of the Roberts were honored with lifetime membership awards before they left Oregon and returned to Palm Springs. After Portland, they moved to Palm Springs, where Bob sang with Caballeros, transitioned to artistic director, and took them to Gala Festival 2012, and continued as artistic director after the name change to the Palm Springs Gay Men's Chorus. In 2013-14, he was the founding artistic director of Modern Men, the Coachella Valley Men's Chorus. In August of 2016, I became the artistic director of Modern Men and worked closely with Bob as the chorus commissioned him to write Momentum in 2008 for Gala 2020, based on the writings of Robert Espandola. So, I enlisted the entire chorus. We were at St. Teresa's for an all-day rehearsal in their fellowship hall, and we did the post-it technique. Some of you are with group dynamic are familiar with the post-it technique. What do you want the piece to say? Give me words. And we put them up there. And there was, of course, hundreds of words. And then we started grouping the words. And the grouping became, well, that's the same as this, and this is the same as that. And it starts paring down. And then I go, who are we going to get to write these poems? And Bob came to me. He said, Stan, I literally have crates full of Robert's writings. We charged a commission of the chorus members to go through all of the writings and pick out the pieces that corresponded with the topics that we really wanted the piece to say. And we came down to 200. And then we started pairing. We wanted, well, this guy goes with that, and this goes with that, and we continue pairing. Until we ended up with the 7 movements that is Momentum. Fortunately, Bob was here for not just the premiere performance in 2020, he was here for the recording session that happened right after that. But we tried so hard to make it possible for him to watch the streaming of Minneapolis, but it just didn't work. And I feel very, very bad about that. We tried everything. Their body of works include Over the Skies of Israel, The Promise of Living, Living Out Loud, Fanfare and Noel, Song of Democracy, Only Human, Exile, Metamorphosis, Naked Man to a Dancing Star, Lay of the Land with One Voice, Legacy, and scores of individual octavos and arrangements, and their works live on in recordings, many of which are on YouTube. Gala Festival 24, where we performed Momentum. Oh, and by the way, you're all invited to a reception. Food, and there's a bar. That got you right there. But more importantly, on the stage, Carol and I have gathered a whole bunch of memorabilia. Things from when Bob was a little tiny kid, all the way up through Momentum. You've got to see some of that stuff. Plus all of these CDs that he's recorded on, all of his music. You want to go see that. Gala Festival 2024, we just came back, presented a blockbuster concert. A blockbuster concert is a full-length concert, as opposed to a concert block, which is only a half an hour. And the blockbuster concert was called Legacy. And they performed the piece Legacy from Exile. And incredible. It just made all the difference. Legacy highlighted moments from commissioned works about LGBT plus change makers in the shadows and those in the forefront. Bayard Russell, Kathy Roma, Polly Murray, and Bob Seeley's music were featured at that concert. Over the past 2 years, I brought together into one source, thanks to David Jansen. This is the Robert Seeley magnum opus. It is 750 files. There are 6 crates of original hard copy music, but there are also PDFs and finale files of everything. You can go to a link, thanks to, again, to our friend. You can link, and available by checking this link, you can access all of his music. This, as soon as Gala organizes it, and I've been promising they're on doing it, this will go to a repository of GLBT music composers for everyone to be able to use forever. So it's going to be a permanent repository for GLBT music that anybody can access at any time. Isn't life strange? You're sailing along and you don't know what's ahead. I didn't know in '89 and going to San Francisco the people I would meet, the associations. We never know that. It just reminds us to be open to new and excitement and things like that, and don't shut off and become reclusive, which is so easy to do. If I were to tell you that I would meet someone like Bob Seeley and we would put together this body of music, I would think it impossible. I couldn't conceive of it. But it happened. And now the world is a better place because someone like Bob Seeley lived in it. Those of you who have sung his music, nothing I say is strange to you. His music contains some, not just the words. If you were to sing the Seeley pieces without words, you know what he was saying. You know exactly what he was conveying. His music says everything. And what a wonderful way to remember him. We have hundreds of recordings and videos of his music. But most of all, we shall remember you for your wisdom, for your courage, and for your love. Take each moment as a gift and give it back again.
Again, I welcome all of you, thank all of you for coming today, and what a blessing this time has been for us all to spend together. As Stan said, there's a reception in our fellowship hall, which is the building that's just this way, where there'll be plenty of more time to be together, share stories and love, and let us pray. Gracious and divine one, we are so grateful for the gift of life, the gift of friendship, the gift of music and creative expression, and especially the gift of Bob Seeley. We are so grateful for this time to grieve his death and celebrate his extraordinary life and to do it together. We are grateful to know that no matter what, love wins. and we hold on to that truth as we leave this place today. May all that Bob was and was to us continue to live in us and move through us, so that he may continue to bless our lives and our world. May we continue to support one another in our grief and find beautiful music together in all the ways that beautiful music is made and is heard. We ask this in your divine name. Amen.
Monday at 12:30 at Desert Memorial Park. So you're going out Ramon. If you turn right at Duval, you're in, one of them is Forest Lawn. It's the other one. But the interment is Monday at 12:30. And yes, I will be there. Thank you very much. Come and join us. Have some food. There's a lot of it.